That. Hi, I'm Pete McGill, and I'm standing here with David Olds. David Olds was a 213 marathoner back in the day, and is also better known as the coach of Nike's Naked Running Camp, as well as the founder of the Fluffy Bunny Track Camp. Excuse me, the Fluffy Bunny Track Club.
We call it.
Well, yeah. Oh, right. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about marathon tips. Now, we're not going to be talking about those marathon tips about, how to actually train for a marathon or how to actually go about racing a marathon. You can go anywhere on the web and get information on that. We're going to talk about the more important facets of marathon training. Things like, how do you drink out of a cup? What should you eat while you're out there on the marathon? What are things you can do to prevent chafing or blisters or cramps or any of those other things that you run into along the course? We're going to go down the table and we're going to look at a few of the items we've prepared for this video. Right here we have little packets of, I don't know, chewing tobacco?
This is energy gels. We have some Cliff Shots and some goo for folks who are going to be out on the course for maybe in excess of 3 hours.
Now, how often would you take one of those when you were out on a marathon?
Well, when I was running marathons, these things didn't even exist. But
were you able to finish?
I was actually able to finish without them. Most of us are actually capable of running or doing lots of things for 2.5 hours or so without having to eat. But for some folks, they do provide a little bit of an extra energy boost, usually somewhere midway through the race.
Okay, moving right on down, we have two items here, and I'm not exactly sure what they have to do with marathoning. They look to me more like something I might use after a long night of celebrating after a marathon. I see we've got Tums here.
Tums, yes. I found these pretty useful. One of the things, marathons happen early in the morning. One of the ways most of us wake ourselves up in the mornings with a good strong cup of coffee. I always found that to be helpful early in the morning before a marathon. I also found myself fairly nervous before races in the morning, and Tums was an excellent way to sort of absorb any excess stomach acid from the coffee and from the nervousness.
Next up we have Imodium. Interesting.
Yeah. This is not something I've used, but I've had a number of runners find it does. Again, going through the sort of nervous stomach issues, people can get that acidy feeling into their intestines. This stuff keeps the intestines fairly clean. It's an anti-diarrhea formula. So
this is so that you can make it through a race without having to make pit stops?
That's the idea.
All right. Next up we have Vaseline. All right. What are we going to use our Vaseline for?
Well, if you don't have goo, you don't want to eat this stuff, even though it's about the same consistency. But running a marathon, lots of little things can crop up. You want to try to avoid any problems that might occur. Lots of chafing, any area of your body where you can.
So, like
under the arms, between the legs, a lot of times on your toes and your socks.
Would that help with blisters at all?
It would definitely help with blisters.
Speaking of things you definitely don't want to be dealing with in the middle of a marathon or in the middle of any run, we've got Band-Aids here. And as I understand it, these are to protect that ultra-sensitive area inside our armpits as we move towards the middle of our body, the nipples.
Yes. One of the last things you want to finish a marathon with is bloody red streaks running down your shirt.
Because it's a bad fashion statement?
It's a bad fashion statement, not to mention it's sort of indicative of a level of pain that probably you don't want to experience.
Next we have bananas and oranges. Now we have bananas and oranges here because Mr. Olds told me in preparation for this video that in fact bananas and oranges. He told me bananas and oranges are wonderful food, but for some reason you wouldn't want to be eating these directly prior to a marathon?
Probably not. I personally didn't want to eat a whole lot of anything directly prior to a marathon. But if you're racing a marathon, again, it's not a meal, it's a race.
So you're suggesting how far before the marathon should you shut off this?
I mean, everybody's a little different with it. A lot of people want to have a little something in their stomach in the morning of. My feeling was nothing I ate the morning of a race could help me, but it could certainly hurt me.
Anyway, as far as the big meal the night before.
Yeah, most big races host a big pasta meal the night before. I always was astonished at how much food people tried to cram into their systems. Carbo loading is something you do in the week before a marathon. You don't do it the night before.
There we go. This is not a fluffy bunny fashion statement. This, in fact, if Mr. Olds would come over and explain what's going on here, this is the easiest, surefire way to set yourself up in case of bad weather.
It's the world's cheapest rain suit and sweatsuit. Often, before the start of a marathon, your bags and trainers and sweats and things and the start line are quite far apart from one another. Most races require you to get to the start at least 30 minutes in advance, and on a cold, drizzly day, you could be close to hypothermic before the race starts. You're not going to want to throw away a $200 Gore-Tex suit, and you don't want to freeze to death. Hefty trash bag, carefully styled to allow for freedom of movement. Perfect way to keep your body warm. Right before the gun goes off, take it off, set it by the side. You've lost 2 cents worth of plastic, and you're not freezing before the start of the race.
All right, and now it's time for that big moment when we learn how, in fact, to drink from a cup. Okay, we're doing a simulated water station here. Well, I will hand water to the runners as they come through. Good job. Not good job. When coming in for water, rather than knocking all the waters off the table and into the kind volunteer who's holding your water, just take the one that's being proffered in his hand. We're doing a simulated water stop. Ah! Well, once again, this is a reason that bananas and the day of marathoning don't mix. While Tyson has taken off down the street, is drinking his water, and is continuing to race, we have Slowpoke here, stopping, eating his banana, drinking his water, and losing precious seconds in his overall marathon time. All right, now I know that happened pretty fast for those of you out there. So we're going to explain exactly what Peter did when he was taking that drink of water right now. Peter, if you could give the example while David gives the play-by-play. Unfortunately, we're using plastic cups instead of paper. They no longer sell paper cups in stores. David?
Yeah, one of the biggest tricks with getting water into your system is that if you try to drink out of a cup this size, you tend to pour the water up your nose and end up choking when you really want to be drinking and breathing. So your best method is to pinch the cup very tightly and sip out of the small hole while you can continue running. Because when you're running with a cup like this, obviously the water just flies out of it. But if you pinch it, water stays in the cup while you're running. You can sip it without pouring it all over yourself.
And how often should you stop at water stations?
You shouldn't stop at water stations. You
there
should
you go,
probably
the
actually
expert again.
Try to run through them, and in general, you should probably stop or grab water at every water stop that you can.
And there you've got it. Everything you needed to know about drinking water at a water stop, plus all those other tips we got to earlier in this presentation. I want to thank David Olds for helping us out on this. I want to thank you, Peter, for drinking water the correct way. And I want to thank our volunteers who are milling back around the corner for their
trash bags.
In their trash bags, for helping us out too.